Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Greg's Funny Business. Now, today I'm going to be doing another review. This time, I'm going to be reviewing Red Dead Redemption 2. And, before anyone says anything, no, I have not played the first Red Dead Redemption, although I do plan on playing Red Dead Redemption 1 in the future, just to be able to see how that game is compared to this one and the second one how well the second one connects to the first one, I should say. But anyway, but anyways, like with BioShock Infinite, this game is also rated M for mature, mainly because of some inappropriate things that happens in it, some violence involving guns and some swearing here and there. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend letting kids play this game. And I'm sorry that I'm reviewing another M-rated game. I will be able to. I promise I'll be able to review a game that's not M-rated. In fact, I have a couple of ideas in mind for some more family-friendly options. But anyway, let's talk about Red Dead Redemption 2. In Just to let you guys know, there will be some spoilers for this review, so if you don't want to have the game spoiled, I recommend clicking off of this video. So, let's begin. So basically, with Red Dead Redemption 2, you're playing as this cowboy named Arthur Morgan. And this entire game takes place in 1899, which is a pretty interesting time period, because this was pretty much around the time in America, the red even though the Red Dead Redemption universe, it's not your typical American sort of universe. There's pretty much a lot of made up stuff lands in it, like Strawberry and with Saint Denis and all that stuff all that stuff. Pretty much, pretty much there, pretty much a lot of the places there are pretty much fictional stand-ins for typical American places around that time period. But anyway, before I get off topic, I find the date for when this game takes place is pretty interesting, considering how this 1899 was around the time where the Wild West was just starting to fizzle out in America, and it's also around the time where it pretty much birthed American industrialism, and where a lot of more and more factories were starting to be able to take place in America. And I find not only do I find that interesting, of course, the graphics are really, really good. It really has a lot of detail involved, and you can definitely tell with how each of the characters are interact with each other. You can definitely tell with how you interact with Arthur Morgan, especially if you like trim his facial hair, which is an option you can do in the game. You can even change his clothes. You can be able to choose what different guns that he has. You can choose different types of horses that he rides. Pretty There's pretty much a lot of attention to detail with this game involving the animation and how the character itself interacts. And that's definitely, even though that's definitely not the biggest priority for me when it comes to video games, but it definitely has a lot, it definitely has a lot to be able to like it in this game. But anyway, let's talk about the story real quick. Like I said, you play as this cowboy named Arthur Morgan. He's traveling with his gang. Sorry, with his gang, led by led by this man named Dutch. And from what I understand, Dutch is also one of the villains in in the first game. So it'll be interesting for me to go back to go to Red Dead Redemption 1 and be able to see how different he is from that game than he is in this one. And also you get to be able to interact with a couple of different characters there, like Javier, like the and like the protagonist in the first game, John Marston, and you get to see how he kind of develops through the through the game. You also get to be able to interact with his wife. You also get to be able to meet John's kid, Jack. You also get to meet Sadie Adler, whose own whose own farm and her home was attacked by this rival gang that Arthur Morgan and Dutch and his other gang members have been at war with for quite some time. The O'Driscoll gang. Pretty much they're pretty much a gang that comprised of a bunch of like well, I'd rather not say. I want to keep that as a surprise, especially with a couple of the characters like Kieran, who tr- tries to get who ends up getting involved through chance with Arthur's gang, and throughout the entire throughout the entire game, you get to be able to you get to be able to do a whole bunch of fun cowboy things, like being able to collect bounties, being able to pretty much pretty much you get to be able to pretty much steal wagons and be able to rob banks. A lot of a lot of stuff that typical cowboys do around that time period. Not to mention, there's also the most famous game mechanic of Red Dead Redemption, which is the Deadeye. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's pretty much a game mechanic there where everything slows down to a crawl, and you get to be able to pretty much shoot anything you want with very accurate pinpoint precision, kind of like a sniper does with their laser scope. Except you also have some sort of time manipulative powers, which kind of kind of an interesting sort of theory to be able to put into a game that has cowboys and they're really prideful into how fast they can be able to shoot their revolvers. Also, I have to I believe also a lot of the characters like John Marston, like Dutch, like Arthur Morgan, they're pretty memorable, and with all the stories you get to understand them a lot more. Especially with poor Arthur Morgan, since unfortunately throughout the games his story just kind of ends up turning sad and ends up turning into this tragic so, sort of story. And let's just let's just say that while while doing doing some work for one of the for one part for someone in his gang. Sorry, can't get the words out. He goes out collecting money from people since the gang he was part of they aren't really too honest about what how they interact with other people, and this is definitely the part in the story where it gets kind of interesting, where Arthur Morgan just sort of like feels conflicted with how the gang is treating the world they are, especially since Dutch keeps always saying, I have a plan, I have a plan, I have a plan, even though he doesn't really make it clear what his plan is for Arthur and the gang. And it definitely conflicts with what Arthur was taught when he was first brought into the gang, and that's what really makes the entire game interesting, especially towards the end where Arthur meets pretty much his demise. Not necessarily by the hands of Dutch or anyone in the gang, just merely because of the nasty stuff that he was forced to do for the gang. Especially when it comes to this one particular character that I'm 100% confident that everyone hates more than Dutch, and that character is Micah Bell. Micah Bell, in my opinion, is the quintessential villain of this entire game, mainly because he always keeps to himself, he always manipulates Dutch to his advantage, he always talks down to Arthur every chance he gets, even though he knows that Arthur is struggling. Yeah, Micah Bell is pretty much the definition of toxic masculinity throughout the game, and that's what makes him the type of villain character that you just love to hate. The fact that he just embodies toxic masculinity to an extreme fault. And it really feels satisfying that when after you move on from Arthur's story and now go into John's, where it kind of connects John to the first game, even though, like I said, I don't know many details involving the first game, but I will at some point, and maybe I'll make a review on it. But after you go on a whole bunch of these quests with John, you finally get revenge by being able to do whatever you want to Micah Bell. And that's a really sad, and that just makes it really, really satisfying to me, because I just absolutely hate Micah Bell with a burning passion. But anyway, that's pretty much my review of Red Dead Redemption 2. I highly recommend it to any like mature players who are curious about the game and want to be able to play it. I def I definitely think it's becoming one of the best games of all times, even though it really hasn't come out that long ago. I think it came out in like 2017 or 2018, but I feel like Rockstar, the studio that made the game, really outdone themselves with Red Dead Redemption 2, and I really hope that they make a Red Dead Redemption 3, whether it's following John's son's story, Jack, or whether it's doing another prequel involving how Arthur Morgan got into the gang. And we get to see Arthur Morgan in his prime. But anyways, I will see you next time.